There's no evidence to support what the minister suggests. And what he's done is through decades of negligence with a federal government that got out of the housing business 20 years ago, a provincial government that has done nothing for social housing. He now says the problem is so bad it's beyond our means to be able to fix it. Well, that's not an excuse. It's if you would have been building $200 million worth of housing every year for the last 8 years, this would not be a $2 billion problem right now, would it? So it's a question of what priorities you place and what choices. He had no hesitation in saying, I'm going to spend $3.5 billion and more on building a new bridge at the Port Mann. You know, but I can't afford to build housing for people who are in desperate need. Is it why is it that we continually suffer the set of priorities that this provincial government puts on, which are the Olympics, big business, tax reductions, and then he throws a few crumbs towards people who are living in poverty, and everybody says, but he's doing something. Well, he's not doing enough.
Mm-hmm. And also 2 billion sounds like a huge number, but it's a capital investment, whereas the 8,000 families that are receiving subsidy is just an operating thing that goes year by year. But in any case, let's move on.
The $2 billion, you know, is not a question of saying it's a straight subsidy, because that money will get paid back through rental that's paid on those properties. So many people consider building housing to be an investment, that he sees it as a burden, when many of us see housing that's built as an investment.
Social investment. Right. Councillor Dhaliwal mentioned something about an MRI machine and Burnaby Hospital that hasn't been able to operate because lack of funding. But Minister Falcon was also throwing a lot of millions of dollars of numbers.
I'll walk you through the budget documents. I'll show you a 20% increase. I also acknowledge that it's not, the system wants more. I get that. But we're in the midst of the worst economic crisis and conditions we've seen in a generation in this province. I'm actually proud of the fact that we made a priority that in spite of that, we were going to still increase the budget in healthcare by 20%. It doesn't mean we can do everything. And it does mean we have to find a way of doing things differently. And I can tell you this, every time you try and do something differently, you'll get 50 SEVs coming out of the woodwork saying any change is terrible. How dare you think about doing things differently? How dare you try anything different? Well, we're going to, because we have to. And I'll tell you, I make no apologies for the fact of saying to British Columbians that the issue we have in our health system isn't about more money. If it was just more money, we've won the contest hands down. The budget has gone up 70% since I got elected in 2001. I'm not sure at what level of money that your citizens of Burnaby want to continue to give. If they're prepared to just keep writing checks and increasing taxes to pay for more funding, I'd be interested in hearing that, but I don't hear it from the citizens of Burnaby. I can tell you what they usually say is we pay enough taxes and we'd like more services. So the challenge for us as a society in healthcare is that we have to figure out how, with record funding increases, we are still going to make sure the system is going to be there for our kids. And that doesn't just mean spending more money. It actually means spending the dollars we're putting into the system now smarter, better, and not being afraid to make changes in the system. We're not going to be afraid to make those changes.
Thank you.
What is your view on this lack of funding for the MRI at the hospital?
Well, I think that very often what we're asked to do is we're asked to have charity look after important infrastructure that's required in our health system. You'll notice that a large amount of the effort goes to raising funds for places like Children's Hospital. Now, why should we be out holding charity bazaars for a children's hospital while at the same time the government is fully paying $900 million for a convention center? What's wrong with your society when the government is reducing corporate tax rates consistently and yet is telling you to go out and look for charity if you want an MRI at your hospital? That doesn't make any sense to me. It shows a completely wrong-headed view of the way the world should operate. Now, you should be raising through charity funds for a convention center. You should be paying through your taxes for a hospital. And I don't think, and the only reason they do that is because hospitals are appealing. People want to help sick children. My view is that if you want to help sick children, pay your taxes, because that's the way sick children are going to be helped, is by providing the money, not through charity, providing the money for hospitals through tax dollars, and to have the best of equipment paid for by the tax dollars. So this kind of excuse that they do is that send the sympathetic ones out for charity, and the ones where people would have no sympathy will do that.
Yeah, but do you know anything about this MRI that is not working and Burnaby General Hospital?
Well, they don't have enough hours to operate it. The charity goes out, buys the MRI, the provincial government cuts the operating time, so the MRI is not utilized to its maximum capacity. So after charities raise the money, they won't finance the operation of the MRI. And so Councillor Dhaliwal is exactly right. It's the hypocrisy of a government that can take security at the Olympics from 200 million to 900 million, and there isn't a comment, from the mainstream media while they do that, and yet at the same time they can cut back on the hours that MRIs are operating, and with a straight face say, we're spending more money on the healthcare system.
And would you say the same thing about spending on the Olympics while at the same time cutting budgets for school sports?
Well, it's ridiculous, and with a government that is spending $130,000 on a work-free zone in the Ministry of Environment so their employees can remain fit, while at the same time cutting $130,000 from school programs to allow children to stay fit. It's again a completely skewed set of priorities, but this government really is a government that's there for big business, for the elite in our province, and it's a constant frustration to me.
Was there some changes in the regulations, the provincial taxing regulations, that was given some more authority to the cities to tax corporations or
No.
property? No.
Just that most of these corporations, these towns were built to service those corporations. So you're in a situation where these corporations, as usual, are continuing to be as psychotically self-interested as one would expect.
Is there any question that you would like to ask the people that would help you or empower you to make some change, some political change? Is there any priority on a question that comes up to your mind that you would like to ask people?
What will it take to get you interested in the political process? What will it take? At what moment is it going to dawn on you that democracy is a very delicate commodity, that it doesn't survive in many parts of the world, and that you have to nurture democracy, and the way to nurture it is to participate? It's so critical, and yet I find that this massive disinterest, this apathy that goes on in our society allows the bad guys to run things, because what they do is they buy it with money. They buy it through their corporate connections. They buy it through big campaigns. They buy it through controlling media. None of that would work if people made the effort to be knowledgeable and interested, because they would see right through it.
Well, I hope that people go and take the time to participate, because that is what democracy is all about. If people don't participate, then we won't have democracy. We'll be just managed by a corporation.
And this is one of the battlegrounds, I think, in the world where either we protect democracy or we don't, and it can only be protected by people being active, being responsible.
What Mayor Corrigan wonders is, what will it take to change the endemic citizens' apathy and to a progressive citizens' participation on social issues? The answer is up to you. To begin a social transformation, you can register your opinion on nowpolling.ca. Because remember, participation, more specifically, your participation, is the essence of direct democracy.